शिरोदिनि वासिनि विष्णुविलासिनि जिष्णुनुते.
So, according to this paper, India has gone from Nehruvian non-alignment to Hindu nationalism's reactionary internationalism. Okay, guys, what we are doing at the moment apparently is not non-alignment. This is Hindu nationalism's reactionary internationalism. How clueless are these guys? So this is one part of a much longer paper. So we are discussing this. Every section has been released as a separate paper as well. Thankfully, we don't have to read the entire bullshit. But this is a three-page portion. So India's approach to the Russian invasion of Ukraine and geopolitics today is not an example of Nehruvian non-alignment strategy, but an quote-unquote India-first strategy underlined by the BJP's Hindu nationalist ideology. Hindu nationalism can be broadly defined a set of primordialist ideologies unified in their belief that India's essential national identity is Hindu. The form of Hindu nationalism that the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party and its affiliates assert today is commonly called Hindutva. Originating in the 1920s, it is ethno-nationalist, majoritarian, and under Modi, populist. Kahe? So, ethno-nationalist, guys. Hindutva is ethno-nationalist apparently. Okay? Yeah. Ethnicity par bhi Hindutva काम करता है. I mean, on the face of it, they are factually wrong. Absolutely clueless, illiterate, uneducated on what's going on in India, what even our points are. Steelman word नहीं सुना है जिंदगी में ये word. The impact of Hindu nationalism on Indian foreign policy has generally been ignored or assumed inconsequential by geopolitical analysts. Okay? The impact of Hindu nationalism on Indian foreign policy has generally been ignored or assumed inconsequential by geopolitical analysts. Fair enough. Yet, the BJP government has altered Indian foreign policy in accordance with its ideology. One example of this is India-Israel relations. During the tenure of the Indian National Congress from the 1950s to 1990s, the Indian government did not engage in official diplomatic relations with Israel. This was due to the Nehruvian-influenced perception of Israel as a colonial, Western-aligned religious state akin to Pakistan. Oh, अच्छा, Israel was equal to Pakistan according to Nehruvian regime. ये तो मैं पहली बार सुन रहा हूँ. Only after Congress moved away from non-aligned positions did India establish diplomatic relations with Israel. But it was the rise of the BJP from 1998 onwards that radically shifted India-Israel relations. The BJP government's embrace of Israel stemmed from shared ideological affinities with the Jewish state, with the BJP aspiring to turn India into an ethno-religious state and the identification of a common enemy in Islamic terrorism. This culminated in Modi's visit to Israel in 2017 as the first Indian Prime Minister to do so. Yet today, many commentators continue to push the idea that India's quiet approach to the Russian invasion of Ukraine is in keeping with India's historic Nehruvian non-alignment. Yeah, more or less. It's more, I would call it proactive non-alignment instead of just reacting after something has happened. But non-alignment was not about self-interest or ethno-nationalism, but pragmatic idealism. It had an anti-colonial edge and aimed to find a third, more moral way between warring sides. ये sentence में तो बहुत रस मिल गया discuss करने का. Yeah, being away from conflicts is not pragmatism. And you are not supposed to have your own priorities in mind, okay? Look at the premise of this sentence. Non-alignment was not about self-interest. What the fuck is going on here? What is this sentence supposed to mean? How is this woman an expert on geopolitics? She's a scholar on geopolitics. These people get funded for studying, researching on geopolitics. And such a person is saying India's vision up until now was not about self-interest. वो तो true है, सच है. That's great. But her premise is that it is not even supposed to be about self-interest. She's appreciating the Nehruvian regime for not having self-interest. This is sort of a self-goal as well, that someone who is defending Nehruvian regime is saying that, you see, they were so good that they did not have any self-interest in mind. This is like Shaila Rashid confirming the worst fears of the Maulana Modi wing and saying that, yeah, see, BJP is doing such great leftist things. What is this? Non-alignment was not about self-interest. On ethno-nationalism, हिंदुत्व में ethnicity का कहाँ का है कुछ? But it was about pragmatic idealism, okay? I have a big problem with this phrase called pragmatic idealism, which is also known as practical idealism. Now, ये तो भाई scholar है इसलिए practical की जगह pragmatic लिखा है. But there used to be a famous political drama series called The West Wing, okay? It was directed and written, screenplay was written by a person called Aaron Sorkin, who is according to me the greatest screenplay writer of all time, who has written the screenplay dialogues for everything like Suits, etc. Not Suits, sorry, The Social Network, okay? So whenever you see those fast, witty dialogues, okay, fast conversations going on, and you are blown away with each and every sentence, like there is in Social Network, you will know it's by Aaron Sorkin, okay? So he had come up with this bullshit term for the fictional democratic politicians in the series called The West Wing about the American president, and he called it practical idealism, okay? तो उनका आइडिया ये था कि I'm not sure if he came up with the word, but that was what was the main point of the series as well. That you see, right is bad, right wing is bad, left wing is bad. There is something in between, and that something in between apparently is called practical idealism. Now, both of these words, practical and idealism, is absolutely subjective and very relative to every different person. It's different, okay? What is practical to you is not practical to someone else. What is ideal to you is not ideal to someone else. So how can you have you can ride on this high horse of arrogance and unearned moral superiority, saying that yes, you see, your demand is very impractical and it's not really ideal. It's very bad. What I am suggesting, that one is practical and ideal, bro. This is a bullshit term to begin with. India was never a major player during Nehru regime. Our concern wouldn't have even mattered. The only option was to be non-aligned in the Cold War. Yes, and self-interest nahi tha. That was such a great thing. Ideal practicalism. Guys, which buffoon wrote this paper? Let me tell you the name. Her name is Alessandra. Yeah, ye dekho. Alessandra Barrow, Paul Van Hooft. But mainly Alessandra Barrow. And look at all the other papers, okay? All are by Alessandra Barrow. So, setting the scene, the Ukraine war in Indo-Pacific, India, a problem for the Western Indo-Pacific strategy and its democratic values discourse. Question mark दिया है. हिंदी रूसी भाई भाई, India Soviet nostalgia, और इसके लिए भोसरी के पुतिन को support कर दिया. The Russia-India arms partnership. All this by Alessandra Barrow, okay? This is hilarious. Non-alignment was not about self-interest or ethno-nationalism, but about pragmatic idealism. It had an anti-colonial edge and aimed to find a third. Okay, now this sentence also. नेहरूवियन regime का जो geopolitics था, उसमें एक anti-colonial edge था. हमारा अभी का जो geopolitical strategy है, उसमें कोई anti-colonial edge नहीं है, ठीक है? हमारा बहुत pro-colonial, pro-west वाला edge है. ऐसा इनका मानना है. See, this is the problem with not being an academic. Okay, I will just mainly laugh and sigh and beat my forehead कि क्या लिखा है. But since I'm not an academic, so I'm not being able to come up with counters to such insanely hilarious allegations. I mean, I get better arguments from my commie friends, because with them I can actually have a conversation that no, you see, this is where you are wrong. इसमें क्या उत्तर दे? ये तो ऐसा है कि किसी ने पेपर लिखा है. You see, dogs have 4 wings and they can fly. Where are you going to start your argument? So India's current foreign policy does not have an anti-colonial edge, apparently. So is Jaishankar saying that West's problems are their problems, and the West should realize that their problems are not our problems, and they should also remember that they never treated our problems as their problems. When Pakistan repeatedly bombed us for years and years, they never gave a fuck. They probably don't even know that Pakistan, India and Bangladesh are different countries, okay? Every time something happens in Bangladesh, I see people, Americans on Instagram and Twitter saying that, you see, Indians are such a stupid people, that's why they are doing these things. So now we don't have an anti-colonial edge. Okay, what did the Nehruvian regime do also? They attempted to find a third, more moral way between warring sides, okay? Also, again, subjective, because your morality might be about what is the best interests for your country, or your morals might be taking the side of Palestine, or your morals really might be about taking the side of Israel. So I'm not talking about moral relativism here, but priorities matter, and based on different priorities, different morals can be formulated, okay? तो इस स्कॉलर को पसंद नहीं आया कि अभी हमारा मॉडल क्या है, और हमारा मॉडल तो अभी है कि हमको तो अपना देखना है पहले. So now they used to find a more model way. Now we don't find a model way anymore. Okay. India's approach to the Russian war in Ukraine is much more about the quote-unquote India first foreign policy that has proliferated under Modi than it is about idealism or finding a non-combative third way. Yeah, we did not find a non-combative third way. Interesting. As if we really funded people with arms and jumped into the war. We did not do a non-combative third way, guys. Okay, this is even by standards of even English grammar, this is fucking wrong. You might say that your non-combative third way was not something I agree with. Okay, your way of non-combative third way was not a very good non-combative third way, but it was a non-combative third way literally because we did not do any combat and it was a goddamn third way. Why are they saying that it was not a non-combative third way? And the sentence before that as well, it was India's this geopolitical strategy is not about idealism, guys. Why kahe idealism nahi kiya? Features of the BJP's reactionary internationalism and India first geopolitical thinking. The Modi government's approach to the world order shares with Russia a desire to realize a multipolar world. Oh, ye bhi kharab hai. Interesting. In which they can both play intermediary roles from India's perspective as a middle power or potential great power. This third explanation for India's approach to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the BJP's India first vision of world order, deserves closer attention. Hindu nationalist multipolar geopolitics. The BJP views international relations as transactional and strives to realize a multipolar world in which India as a civilizational state can play competing civilizations off against each other. Okay. एक सेंटेंस ठीक बोल दिया, उसके पहले वाला और उसके अगले वाला भी गलत बोल दिया. Look at this. So the premise is that BJP views international relations as transactional. Okay, this is sort of a new thing that BJP has discovered. See, this is why a lot of right-wingers say that Modi has become popular to a large extent, more than he deserved, because of leftists themselves. How much leftists accuse him for a lot of things which right-wingers count as credits. Okay, सब कुछ मोदी कर रहा है, सब कुछ जो मुझे पसंद नहीं आ रहा है मोदी कर रहा है, जो कि सच में मे बी मोदी ने नहीं किया है, मगर वो जो चीज़ लेफ्टिस्ट को पसंद ही नहीं है वो तो राइट विंगर को पसंद है, तो इसलिए राइट विंगर सोच रहा है कि वाह 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 ये सब कुछ मोदी ने किया है. So here also, very legit scholar is crediting BJP with coming up with the idea that, how about we have transactional relationships in international politics? How about that? No one has really thought of that before. This is the first time. This is BJP coming up with this idea. Okay? No one else has done it. No one else thought about it. BJP views international relations as transactional. And then she says that, India is a civilizational state. चलो इतना तो admit किया, ये तो बड़ी बात है. But the very next sentence, India is trying to play off competing civilizations against each other. ऐसा बोल रहा है कि हमने इजराइल पैलेस्टाइन वॉर शुरू करवाया, हमने रशिया यूक्रेन वॉर शुरू करवाया. If a country did not do things to start off that war, how can that country be accused of playing off competing civilizations against each other, bhai? English grammar ही भूल है यहाँ पे. The BJP's Hindu nationalism impacts their geopolitical thinking and attitude towards Russia. देखो, मौलाना मोदी विंग बोलेगा कि ऐसा तो है नहीं, मगर ये लोग क्रेडिट दे रहे हैं. तुझे पता नहीं है बीजेपी हिंदू नेशनलिज्म डाल रहा है जियोपॉलिटिक्स में, मुझे पता है. For example, Subramaniam Jaishankar, the Indian Minister for External Affairs since 2019, sketched out the increasingly predominant view of the future world order in his book, The Indian Way. Jaishankar envisions a world where nationalism has triumphed to the extent that there is no longer need of an alliance-based order, but instead a quote-unquote more transactional view of international relations. अच्छा, जयशंकर ने ये बोला है, इसका मतलब है जयशंकर ने डिस्कवर किया है ट्रांजैक्शनलिज्म इन इंटरनेशनल रिलेशंस. ओके, क्या बात है. एंड यहाँ पे तो नेशनलिज्म वर्ड यूज हुआ है, तो बार बार ये हिंदू नेशनलिज्म और एथनो नेशनलिज्म अब तक कहाँ आ रहा था, वो सब एक्यूज किया. अब जस्टिफिकेशन के लिए एविडेंस जो सेंटेंस दिया उसमें सिर्फ नेशनलिज्म है. वाह वाह वाह. तो नेशनलिज्म बाय डिफॉल्ट मीन्स हिंदू नेशनलिज्म एंड एथनो नेशनलिज्म. In this world of frenemies, understood as a kind of cynical realpolitik, India must engage with competing powers like the US, China, the EU or Russia at the same time. Now, again, she's adding her own sentence here. She's quoting Jaishankar in the very next sentence, adding her bullshit conclusion that playing powers off against each other. Arey no, where is India playing powers off against each other if we are not starting those conflicts? The conflict is starting. We have business relations with both of them. Then we are saying that yes, we will see what best business we can have. If तुमको लड़ना है लड़ो, नहीं लड़ना है नहीं लड़ो. How can that be an accusation of playing powers off against each other? This is basic English grammar. In the worldview of the Modi government, the India First agenda is strengthened and legitimized by the ethno-nationalism of Hindutva. A Hindu India, Bharat, is thus a superior civilizational force which, like China, will not only reassert itself on the world stage but disrupt the Western built order. Okay, चलो अच्छा है. ये तो मौलाना मोदी विंग का सब काउंटर यहाँ पे दे रहा है. ভারত আবার জগত সভায় শ্রেষ্ঠ আসন লবে. Freedom from Western international systems and norms. Norms, guys. International systems से हमरा freedom हम लेने का सोच रहे हैं वो तो ठीक है accusation. मगर Western norms से हम हट रहे हैं, which means we are going to get back to casteism. The BJP shares with other right-wing populist governments a desire for national difference and independence from international liberal norms and values. जेसाई दीपक कहाँ पे है? जेसाई दीपक के को एक दिन रात में उठा के ये पेपर पढ़वाएंगे, ठीक है, एज अ नाइटमेयर. Let me check some comments now. She is validating Sri Aurobindo here that Sanatan Dharma is nationalism. Yes, basically. जयशंकर ने नहीं बोला, इसने बोल दिया. My socialist friend sent me audio criticizing NEP because it prioritized career over knowledge. भाई जॉब नहीं है तो चिल्लाते हो. अब जॉब ओरिएंटेड एजुकेशन. Oh my god. So BJP shares, तो we are moving away from liberal norms and values, guys. Very bad. Ultimately, while China poses the greatest threat to India, what they both share is a disdain for current international systems thought to embed Western dominance and belief that if such a system is of use, it is only instrumentally. Yes, but China is actually countering that to a large extent and very viciously, and I would say wrongly. There is no oppositions of the CCP who is winning anywhere in China. There are countless opposition parties of BJP who are doing great in many parts of the country. That is the difference. As Jaishankar puts it, the rules are set for the entire world as well as for the global commons. These are supported by narratives that serve the West as well. These narratives serve the West well while diminishing its competitors. In this regard, much of the Modi government's approach to Russia's invasion of Ukraine has more in common with what Pablo de Orellana and Nicholas Michelsen have described as reactionary internationalism, which is the crux of how right-wing populist leaders like Putin, Trump and Erdogan approach international relations in the 2020s. अभी रुको भाई, धक्का मुक्की मत करो, और भी आ रहे हैं इस लिस्ट में. Reactionary internationalism opposes Western universalism and liberal norms in favor of an alternative centered on national difference and resisting the influence of other states. Now, ये जो sentence है रिएक्शनरी इंटरनेशनलिज्म, इसका तो हमने थोड़ा मजाक उड़ा लिया है पहले ही, मगर उसके बाद का जो एक्यूजेशन है ये और भी फनी है. तो वी आर अपोजिंग वेस्टर्न यूनिवर्सलिज्म एंड दैट इज़ अ बैड थिंग अपेरेंटली. ओके, वी आर नॉट सपोज टू अपोज वेस्टर्न यूनिवर्सलिज्म. ये क्या लिखा जा रहा है यहाँ पे? अगर यूनिवर्सल है तो वो वेस्टर्न कैसे हुआ? ऐसा अगर कोई मैजिकल यूनिवर्सलिज्म होता जो कि स्वयं कृष्ण भगवान से आया है या लॉर्ड शिवा से आया है, तो वो तो वैसे ही यूनिवर्सल हो ही जाता. उसमें ईस्टर्न यूनिवर्सलिज्म, हिंदू यूनिवर्सलिज्म डालने का ज़रूरत नहीं पड़ता. अगर कोई एडजेक्टिव डालना पड़ रहा है उसके सामने, इसका मतलब है उसमें जिसका एडजेक्टिव डाला जा रहा है उसका वर्जन ऑफ यूनिवर्सलिज्म है और उसमें उनका थोड़ा एक्स्ट्रा प्रायोरिटी तो रहेगा ही भाई. तो तुम बोल रहे हो कि वेस्टर्न यूनिवर्सलिज्म और फिर उसको ऐसे अप्रिशिएट कर रहे हो कि जैसे कि वो वेस्टर्न यूनिवर्सलिज्म है नहीं, वो नॉर्मल यूनिवर्सल है, सबके लिए इक्वल है चीज़ें. एंड देन लिबरल नॉर्म्स हमने हटा दिया है. ओके, ऐसा लिबरल नॉर्म हटाया है कि बीजेपी के जो अपोजिशंस है वो सब जीतते जा रहे हैं हर स्टेट में. ओके, और ऐसा लिबरल नॉर्म्स हटाए हैं कि बीजेपी और तृणमूल कांग्रेस में पॉलिसी वाइज ज़्यादा अंतर नहीं है. The main difference between Trinamool and BJP is what? That BJP does do some sort of Hindu things, at least symbolically. The bigger difference is who thinks BJP is for them. Okay? Trinamool's voter base is 80% is Muslim. BJP's voter base is about what? 95% is Hindu. That is the only difference. In terms of policy, hardcore policy, in terms of one other big difference between BJP and Trinamool would be that BJP has done some privatization. Trinamool has not done almost any privatization. But these are very very small nuts and bolts differences, guys. Okay, and the one other main difference would be in terms of execution, but all the differences I'm saying are just here and there. I think only the execution part of Trinamool and BJP would be the biggest difference, but all the other policies I'm saying, they are just Trinamool यहाँ है तो BJP यहाँ है, Trinamool यहाँ है BJP यहाँ है, ऐसा है. But in terms of execution, obviously BJP is the king. But what we are learning from this paper apparently is that there is a gigantic difference between BJP and everyone else, and BJP has completely upended the liberal chutiapa जो अभी तक हो रहा था, which is not the case. तो opposes Western universalism, काहे liberal norms in favor of an alternative centered on national difference and resisting the influence of other states. अच्छा, ये तो honest just observation है. In this regard, India's approach to the Russian invasion of Ukraine is unsurprising. Unsurprising है. तो जब किया था तब सरप्राइज क्यों हो रहे थे बोल के पूरे दुनिया में. The reality is, Modi's government has a great deal in common with Putin's approach to the international order. अच्छा, reactionary internationalism is the crux of how right-wing populist. oh ये तो हो गया. oh यहाँ पे खत्म. ओके चलो, अच्छा हुआ. बाकी का जो है वो एक और सेक्शन में, फिर एक और पेपर में है.
जय जय हे महिषासुरमर्दिनि रम्यकपर्दिनि